Oh, oh. Is there ever a more sweeter sound than that of a victory Monday?
Jeez Louise. Good Lord. Yeah, but at what price?
That's right. Welcome to Sunday Scaries with Bucks McGee, wrapping up Week Five's action, and my Colts are now tied for first in our division, but it's apparently pretty evident at this stage, 5 games into his career, that Anthony Richardson is made of glass. I mean, thankfully, we have Uncle Rico, who is more than a capable backup and a very steady game manager. Taylor's back, locked up for another 3 years. We don't have to worry about Orca Gate anymore. And Zach Moss still wants to run like a demon. But maybe bring me down to earth a little bit. What are my reasonable expectations I have for this team, considering my quarterback can't stay on the field for more than a game at a time?
I have no idea. Right now, you just gotta hope AR is healthy. Hopefully the shoulder's not a bad situation, and just rest him. Don't rush him back. Let Uncle Rico run the show.
Yeah.
At this point, you gotta let it happen. You hate to see the kid go down, but yeah, this is unfortunately starting to look like a habit here. First you had the concussion, now we've got a shoulder issue. So kids got to stay healthy. Don't rush him back, because we've seen so far in the league, you rush back your franchise quarterback, you're not doing too well. And just let Rico run it. Uncle Rico's done a heck of a job. Let's just see what happens.
The only like question mark I really have with his health status as far as how he plays is the fact that when he's in there, like today, like the way this game actually started off, he actually was getting a lot of passes in, but up to this point, he's just been running a lot when he's in the game. And then when Uncle Rico has been called on to play, then all of a sudden Steichen starts to call a little more more passes and out of the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm almost wondering, like, is he kind of handling Richardson with kid gloves because he's not confident in his accuracy, and maybe he just needs to let the kid sink or swim and learn how to throw an accurate pass, because the more he runs, the more he bangs his body around. He's just gonna break he's gonna break every game.
It's true. Maybe it's a situation where you say, you know what, I need you to sit in the pocket. I need you to throw it. We got to see what we've got here. Throw it. Let's see what happens. Flip side is he could still be in that mindset, I've got to run because I don't know what my running back situation is. He should feel confident now. You got Taylor for 3 years. He should be full load next week, so he shouldn't have any issues with that. And just trust your arm and let's see what you got. Because if he continues this route, he's not going to last long. There's going to be a really serious injury on the horizon. So you got to tell the kid, throw the ball. Don't run unless we're telling you to. And now you really don't even have to run, because you got, your franchise back behind you. Just let's throw the ball. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah. As I said, we are tied for first. The team we are tied with is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They kicked off Sunday's action out in London against the Bills. And you know what? We're going to be at the game next week. And whether it's AR, whether it's Uncle Rico, I am feeling a little bit confident, because Jacksonville, despite the win today, they tried to hand this game to Buffalo multiple times with all the fumbles and whatnot. And so what's your take on Jacksonville? Are they kind of fool's gold with this win over Buffalo, or are they legitimate and Buffalo just is Buffalo?
I don't know what you get with Jacksonville. It's almost Jekyll and Hyde esque. Today, like you said, they tried to hand the game back to Buffalo. The end of the game where Allen led those 2 drives, where literally went down the field in a matter of seconds, was ridiculous. I don't know if it was just blown coverages or there's some disconnect there defensively, but you win the games you win, and They gutted it out, so I give Jacksonville credit. They gutted the game out. There was one point before all the injuries that Buffalo got hit with that looked like the game was starting to turn in Buffalo's favor. And the injuries hit, and then it just looked like Jacksonville was just saying, "Here, we don't want it. Here, it's yours." But they gutted it out, got the win. Next week's game is going to be interesting because we don't know. I'm thinking, honestly, it's going to be Uncle Rico. I think you got to let the kid rest the shoulder. So I am going under the assumption that it's Uncle Rico.
Yeah.
So at that point, I think Jacksonville can't sit there and say, well, it's Uncle Rico. We can, we don't have to worry about it. They need to come into that game with even more intensity than they did this week and make sure that they handle business. It's a divisional game. You can't really mess around. You're starting to get to that point in the season now where losses are counting a little more than the first quarter of the season. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I think right now Jacksonville is Jekyll and Hyde.
And Jacksonville was where Uncle Rico became Uncle Rico. So you don't think if you don't think he's going to walk in with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder if he's the starting quarterback, I've got some waterfront property in Arizona.
Oh, there's no doubt he's going to come in there with a little extra step, little extra, juice in the step, and wanting to show Jacksonville, you gave up on me, and I'm here to make sure that you guys don't improve, and you guys aren't going to win at our expense. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I think Uncle Rico will be a little juiced for this one.
How is Buffalo going to lick their chops coming out of this one? Because they just came off that huge win over Miami. Miami won today. We'll get into that in a minute. It was certainly completely expected playing the Giants, but Miami keeps winning. The Jets actually got a win today. We'll get into that later. We could kind of forget about the Patriots, but what's Buffalo coming out of this licking their chops, trying to readjust and figure out what to do? Is it just kind of like a bad luck type of thing, or they have?
The situation is the injuries. Milano, don't know the severity yet. He's really a key part of that defense. Von Miller really wasn't a factor today either. So I don't know. Right now, I think Buffalo comes back home, sits there and kind of figures out the injury bug, see what's happened, see who's going to be healthy, next man up at those positions. And just next game, like you can't sit there and really think about it. You hear quarterbacks, and teams in the NFL say, once we lose a game, got to move on to the next game. And that's where it is at this point. Yeah, they probably should have won this game the way they came back. They should have won it, but now it's all right. Let's move on. We've got, other fish to fry in theory and just go and do our thing. But yeah, I think this one kind of hurts them. They came back strong at the end, but kind of goes to show in the league too. You can't, fall too far back and hope that you can flip a switch on and, pull out a victory like that. So it's going to be tough for Buffalo. I'm interested to see how they bounce back.
Other fish to fry. Very clever pun with their rival being the Dolphins this year.
At this point, that's who they're chasing in the division, so
yeah,
they got to figure out that fish fry.
Yeah, and that the tiebreaker doesn't work too well if you're losing other teams.
Yeah, exactly.
The other showdown this week was the one that capped off Sunday, and that turned out to be a little bit of a disaster. Speaking of fried fish, I think Dak Prescott is going to feel quite fried when he turns on his Xbox and all the little teenagers are picking fun at him this week.
Wow, yeah. This game's bad. It was just bad. There's nothing. I don't think Dallas takes anything from this game. San Fran just handled business. Let's be realistic. Purdy came in, did his thing, looked clean. That offense was moving really well, and that defense fast, hitting hard. Dak and his picks. Really, like what else is there? There's really nothing to this game. San Fran showed Dallas that you're not ready for us yet. You're not ready for the big time. You're not one of the elite yet.
Yeah.
You've got some work to do and you got to figure it out. And Dallas really needs to figure this out really quick
Yeah.
because let's be honest, right now you're looking up at Philly in the standings. You're dropping back a little bit, so you're almost you're pretty much eye to eye with the Lions if you're
Yeah.
talking seeding, even though it's really early, but at this point you're starting to kind of look to see where you fall with your contemporaries in the NFC. You're nowhere near the two elite spots, being Philly and the Niners. So there's some questions here. The run game is the issue here too. I think the run game is a real problem.
Yeah, Pollard was almost non-existent Sunday night. Do you think Niners played an extremely efficient ball game? Do you think that this is more the Niners are this legit team? This is everything we expect them to be, or do you think it's more Dallas is overrated and the Niners took care of business against an inferior opponent?
Could be a little bit of both. I think the Niners played maybe their best game of the season.
Yeah.
We talked about who they've played so far, and we were like, well, this could be the game for either one of these teams to kind of show what they have. And the Niners didn't flinch. The Niners said, all right, let's do this. They came prepared. And Dallas, I don't know, maybe Dallas kind of felt that kind of thought they were better than they were. Because in this game, there's really not one thing where I can look at this game and say, yeah, man, Dallas was showing me they were good. They were showing me something.
Even to the point where Cooper Rush now gets some love at the end of the game.
Yeah, I was hoping at some point they were going to speed that process up and maybe I could get a little Trey Lance action.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to see if maybe they'd sprinkle in some Trey, So,
I feel like the Cowboys being what they are, as soon as there's either a blowout or poor play from Dak and Trey comes in, that is going to light the media circus on fire for the next week.
And that might
maybe
be
they don't. Maybe they just want to avoid that.
That's what I was going to say. Maybe they're like, you know what? Let's not bring him in. Let's kind of let Cooper handle this. Let him, mop up duty. Because you're right. Once Trey takes a snap, it's going to be, oh, is the clock ticking?
Yeah.
Is this the heir apparent?
Yeah.
But yeah, the Niners handled business. The Niners, to me, right now, if you're going to ask me tonight, they feel like the best team in the NFC right now. I believe they've played the most complete game.
Yeah.
Complete season thus far. Yeah. But Dallas really needs to look at themselves and figure it out quick because it's not going to get easier.
And it most definitely does it because next week they have a Monday nighter at LA with the Chargers.
Exactly. So, you show up on Monday, you get back, you look at the film, you say, okay, we were horrible, we sucked, well, let's move on.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing you're taking from this film. Nothing.
No. Speaking of things to take out of film, there were a couple of very elite performances today that we should tip our hat to. One of them was out. One of them was out of this game. George Kittle, awakened from the dead, found the end zone 3 times, and there was another 3 touchdown performance from Jamar Chase out in the desert. Which one of these 3 Tuddy hat tricks? Oh, that's a little redundant. Which one of these Tuddy hat tricks was more impressive?
I'm going to go with Kittle because you expect it from Chase. Let's be realistic. He's been saying all year, I'm open, here I am, throw me the ball. I expect that kind of performance from him. Kittle, I think the last couple of years, with the injuries and such, he's still a top 5 tight end, no doubt. But we've kind of forgotten what he brings to an offense because he's a great blocker and stuff like that. So I think to see him get his 3 touchdowns was really cool. It was I like George Kittle. I think he has this personality. I think that's infectious and really carries that team. So it was good to see him, healthy, moving well, running his routes, doing his thing, so 3 touchdowns. I'm gonna give it to George.
Okay. Um, of course, the other side to Jamar Chase's big performance was that Joe Burrow finally showed up this league. It didn't look like the calf really bothered him at all for once. So
Mm-hmm.
now with this division shaping up the way it is, Pittsburgh beat Baltimore today. They're both 3-2. Cleveland was on a bye. They're still sitting at 2-2. And now Cincinnati is creeping back in the mix at 2-3. Not looking so off base from the rest of the division pace. Who do you handicap now in this division as far as the favorite? Because they've all got issues, but they've all shown good flashes.
There is no one. I can't pick anybody. I can't. Let's be realistic. Like you said, each of these teams has serious flaws. Bengals, Joe's calf. Okay, Joe had a good game today. I'll give him that. Is he healthy? Maybe he just woke up and it felt good. Maybe right now he's icing the hell out of that thing, and he's gonna wake up tomorrow and just be like, "This thing is horrible. It sucks. It hurts. I don't know." But yeah, Bengals finally put up that game that we expected right off the bat, right off the rip.
Yep.
Um, then you're talking Steelers and Ravens, right? That's what we're talking here, and I don't know what those teams are. No, wait a minute. Let me take that back. The Ravens are the same Ravens as last year, except Jackson's not hurt. This is what they were 2 years ago. He runs around, scores his touchdowns, carries this offense. They can't move the ball, and their defense somehow ekes them out a win. In this situation, though, somehow the Steelers pull it off. Like, unbelievable. Gotta give the Steelers credit. You play to the final whistle, and your opportunities come up, and there it is. So I right now there isn't a clear favorite right now. It's going to be someone who catches fire. I think probably towards the end of the year, and it carries over. I can't pick anybody.
Yeah, let's deep dive on that game a little bit because Baltimore had a lead in this game for the vast majority of the game's progression, and then they
Mm-hmm.
just fell apart. They gave up a safety, the they safety and their field goal. Something I forget exactly the scoring progression of the game, but then they completely collapse and let Kenny Pickett lob one downfield, and George Pickens takes it to the house. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so what? Now, I mean, you talk about soul searching with Baltimore. Like
Mm-hmm.
this team is really in need of some answers at this point. We at first part we were just kind of chalking up to all the injuries they've faced, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe they've just got a big hole in this defense that they need to figure out.
I don't think this defense is as strong as it's been in years past, and I'm talking the years after Ray and Ed and all those guys. Like, they still were a quality defense. There seems to be something missing there. The offense is no better than it was 2 years ago. It really isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole we're going to throw the ball all over the place. I'm throwing for 5,000 yards. Here we are. It's not there. So what is this team? Like, there's the offense is slow as all, putrid. There's nothing there. The defense, it's just they're just forgetting things. You let a guy streak down the field, and basically you guys lose the game. Breakdowns in the defense. I just don't know what this Ravens team is. They need to clean it up.
Yeah.
They got to figure it out. The run game is nah, but you need a run game without your quarterback. You do. If Lamar gets hurt again, this season's done. The season's done. So you need to figure it out. And I know we basically jinxed them, and their running backs are, if they ever meet us, they're coming for us. It's not going to be a pretty situation. But yeah, the run game needs to step up, and Lamar's got to be able to throw the ball, and he hasn't been able to do that. So they're in a bad situation.
what's Pittsburgh's chances to continue Mike Tomlin's record? Because I mean, this team is. I mean, we make jokes about Kenny Pickett, but he's pulled out enough to get them above 500 through 5 games, and T.J. Watt is maybe the defensive player of the year right now.
Yeah, but if Baltimore is actually playing smart defense, they lose this game. Steelers lose. Let's be honest here. Where's Najee Harris?
Yeah,
That's the question in Pittsburgh. Where's Najee Harris?
he's been missing this entire season so far.
The run game
Barely noticeable.
Run game is non-existent. Don't know what's going on. Warren has filled in admirably, but like, where is this guy? Najee Harris is supposed to be the guy. He's not there. They can't run the ball, or they run it barely adequately.
Yeah.
So you're going to put it all on Pickett, and that's great, but I don't care what team you are in the league. If all you're doing is throwing, you're not going to win. You may pull out some stuff, but at the end of the day, you're not going to win. You're not going to be successful. So they need to, figure out where Najee Harris is. And if he's not going to be the guy, if he can't do it, if something's wrong, then Warren's got to step up and be the guy. Or find someone who's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And at that point, get Pickett healthy. The pass game is good. It's not bad, but when you're throwing it all the time, you're going to suffer. So you need the run game. It's just how it works.
Warren's played like he could be the man, but they actually need to commit to him.
Yeah, it's either one or the other. If Najee's not doing the job, then you need to say, you know what? I think you're going to need to back up for a bit so we can figure what's wrong with you, because they can't have another just barely 500 season. It won't work, because if they do that this year, after all the preseason hype and everyone was like, oh, the Steelers, this could be it, Pickett, yada yada yada. People are going to start to talk, and that talk is going to be, do they need a new voice in that locker room? Has Tomlin maybe lost his bite? So that's Pittsburgh for me.
Talking about losing your bite, the Chiefs got a bit of a scare today. Travis Kelce had kind of a freak non-contact injury. He did wind up coming back. He did wind up scoring, but how did this kind of shake out with this victory of the Vikings? I mean, I think everyone expected the Chiefs to beat the Vikings, but especially if they could shake off a rough, ugly game like they did last week against the Jets and still pull that one out. No one really expected them to fall the Vikings. But Kelce has this weird injury, goes to the locker room, comes back, was a little rusty back on the field, eventually scores a touchdown. I'm like, okay, Kelce's fine. Milk it up, Paul Pierce. But the other side to this is, okay, if Kelce's not on the field or if Kelce's banged up, that means Patrick has to spread it around and start to trust his other receivers. He targeted 9 other guys in this game. So how do you think the balance is if Kelce's not 100% or maybe even has to miss a game, because they do have a short week coming up? How do you have a different forecast now after seeing Patrick work with the other receivers?
The Chiefs are in trouble. I'm going to be honest, and people are going to probably tell me I'm insane, and they have Patrick Mahomes, so everything's okay. There were a couple throws that should have been picks. If the Viking secondary decides to actually time their jumps and not just flail their arms up and make the Chiefs receivers look incredible, because that's what it really was. Let's be honest here. I give the Vikings defensive line credit. They bothered Patrick all game. They got to him. They hit him. That offense didn't look good to me. They had a couple, pass interference calls. They ran the ball okay, but I think just the Vikings are that bad offensively. Like, they just didn't have it. Now, the Chiefs' defense is solid. I give them that, but once Jay Jettis got hurt, that it was a wrap. Like, that offense was off rhythm. They couldn't do anything. Hawk was like non-existent.
Yeah.
So The Chiefs, to me, are in trouble because we talked about this. We said, especially if Travis was to get hurt, that this offense doesn't have the same flair. It doesn't run as smooth. And I understand, Travis tried to come back. His ankle was bandaged. He ended up with a touchdown. Like, that's great and all. But I watched the game and I saw him. He just like collapsed. At first, I'm like, oh man, it's an ACL. He just popped it. Something's wrong. It was non-contact. He just fell. So I'm sure they're looking at it, and it's going to be the most watched ankle in Kansas City. But they need to figure out this offense because it's not a pretty offense, and it's not the Chiefs' offense that people have grown to love. And I think you saw Patrick struggle. And if it's a smart defense, you're not going to get away with this. With the throws and the luck and this and that, it's not going to happen. So the Chiefs need to rest Travis, make sure his ankle's okay. If that means he's got to sit a game, then he sits a game. But then you truly find out what your offense is about, what the pieces are, if they work, if they don't work. The gadget plays, after a while, people are going to figure them out, and they pretty much have. Mm-hmm. Because right now the Vikings have kind of laid the blueprint to how to play them because they played them tough, and a couple other teams have as well. Let's be honest. The Chiefs haven't been great this year. So They need to figure out what this receiving core can do, what it can't do. You need to get the run game a little more consistent and go from there.
Take a silver lining. At least Kadarius Toney did drop a pass today, Sunday.
No words. No words.
Wow, I'm speechless over another game because I was thinking, okay, if there's gonna be Colts first place tie going into Week 6, it'll probably be with the Texans because they're the ones that have looked the most respectable, I think, or at least most consistent of the rest of our division rivals. And you know what? They had a little bit of a fight with the Falcons, but they got the lead late. They were looking okay. They were looking like they hold it. Sure enough, I don't know what possessed Desmond Ritter's body, but he let it drive to kick a game-winning field goal and escape with this victory. So, so is this like all Texans collapse because they fought back in this game, got the lead, and then just crapped their pants? Or is this more Falcons comeback and maybe we need to give a little bit more respect to Desmond Ridder than we have been in the past?
I think we all kind of have to take a step back on the Texans. Like, great story so far. Mm-hmm. I have sung the virtues of C.J. Stroud all season, but sooner or later they were going to have that game. They were going to have the game where it just didn't work. He hadn't thrown a pick all season. Everyone's like, oh man, the Texans, they've got the formula. This is they could be that team. Way too early yet. They're still developing. Don't forget, this team was a hot mess last year, and so it was all basically stripped down. DeMeco Ryans comes in, brings the Niners culture in. It doesn't change overnight. Now, sometimes you have those streaks where it looks like everything's on fire, everything's great. This is how it's going to go. Everything's smooth. You have the hiccups, and this was their game. Don't forget, CJ's a rookie. This was going to happen. The Falcons, they've got pieces. It's not like they're this horrible team. It's just that
he actually found Kyle Pitts today.
Yeah, exactly. You heard the name Kyle Pitts, and it wasn't like in pregame or postgame. He actually in-game Kyle Pitts. So, I'm happy for, Desmond. He did his thing. He did what he's supposed to do. They gave him the keys to the car, and he drove it okay. He took it to where it had to go and come back and brought it back home without a scratch, I guess. But no, I think this is more of a veteran team that was able to beat a very young team. I'm still not sold on the Falcons. Desmond Ridder is still a question, still a serious question in there. I think Houston will, bounce back next week. These are learning lessons for the youngins there. So nothing to hang their heads down about. They played hard. They got beat. It happens in the league. But yeah, I just think the Falcons were finally able to figure something out and pull out a win. It has to happen at some point in the season.
Yeah. No, nobody goes winless. There's only one team that's ever done it, and there's only one team left this year that's still winless. So
Exactly.
does it.
But another 4 or 5 weeks, if that Schneid's still there, then we're going to be like,
Are you going to join Danny O soon enough? Oh. Speaking of teams that are hanging their heads low this week, we had a number of games that we touched on, a couple of them in the pregame show, and these games, they were kind of, we expected them to go a certain way. We kind of expected them to be a little bit of embarrassment for one side. So we've been harsh on the teams that are supposed to win these games. Like we're not giving you a pat on the back. You're supposed to beat the Bears. You're supposed to beat the Panthers. You're supposed to beat the Giants, that sort of thing. So we'll take this from the other side and go through the four teams that are a little bit down on their luck this season, and where do they go from here? So you have the Patriots. Yeah.
Sorry.
Got the doors absolutely blown off of them today. Sunday, Mac Jones got benched. Saints completely shut him out, 34-0. You have the Panthers, who got off to a very slow start against the Lions. They kind of started to find the end zone a couple times at the end, but the game was long over by that point. So they lose 42-24. You have the Giants, who they couldn't stop Devin Achan. They couldn't stop Tyreek Hill. Well, they did keep Tyreek Hill out of the end zone, but not much else. Not much else on the field they did stop him from doing. And the Rams actually did give Philly a little bit of a fight today, but they still fall by 9 points to Philly. So these four teams, Patriots, Panthers, Giants, Rams, where do they go from here? Like now you're 5 weeks in. You always say after four games you start to assess and recognize who you really are. So now after 5 games, these teams should all kind of have a good idea that they're just not very good. So where do they go from here?
All right. The Rams aren't horrible. The Rams have shown me a lot this year. I was like, this year in the preseason, I was like, oh, the Rams are going to be a hot mess. I didn't know what was going to happen, but with these young guys, that they've got, Williams at running back and the wide receiver phenom,
Puka.
Yeah, Puka. I'm impressed. They got cut back. I think they might be a team. I'm not gonna say it's gonna make the playoffs, but they could play spoiler.
Yeah.
I think they believe in themselves. I don't know if anyone else really does, but they're not horrible. They stuck close with Philly today. Hey, you got like basically a one-armed, one-legged Matthew Stafford. He's been beat up really bad this year, but he's gunning it. So if I'm a Rams fan, I'm not worried about him. I'm like, I know what I have. If we can make some noise, you're building for the future.
Their weakest link is their offensive line. If that offensive line was anywhere close to assembling a respectable unit, like they would actually probably be legitimately in wild card contention.
Yeah, exactly. They're not as bad as we thought they were. They've got some pieces, so I think the future's bright for them. The Panthers, I think everybody kind of put them on a pedestal before they should have. They were like, oh, they've got all these veteran pieces. Bryce Young is incredible. I honestly think they just thought they were going to walk in and win 10 games this year, no problem. And that's not the case. That offensive line is horrible. They've had injuries on the defensive end of the ball, defensive side. The offense is still trying to find its way. So I think right now everyone kind of needs to pump the brakes it's going to be growing pains
Yeah.
in Carolina, and that's just what it is. You know,
With the extra rub that they don't have their first round draft pick this year.
yes, you gave away the moon and the stars, so now you got to hope this guy is your star.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a while, and I think they're going to have to look for probably a couple more pieces on both sides of the ball as well. So it'll be a while for them. The Giants, good Lord. The Giants are just the Giants. There's just nothing. There's nothing there. Danny Dimes nearly lost it all again today. You know, he got whacked around. I think he got sacked 6 times. And then they finally pulled him because he took a shot to the neck. I believe it's a neck injury that they're looking at. And Tyrod Taylor finished up.
Did you happen to catch the deer in the headlights look that he had from a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I was like, oh man, just drop the ball and walk, man. Just walk. Yeah, that team isn't good. They're really not. Even with Saquon, I don't think that team really is good. I think last year they got lucky, really do. Waller hasn't really been that guy. Now I don't know if it's just because Danny Dimes isn't throwing it. Well, he can't throw it because he's running for his life. Let's be realistic here. He has no time. The receivers are sub at best, subpar. And yeah, that defense is like that. I give credit to that defense. They played hard today and they kept it close. I give them credit, but there was only so much they were going to be able to do before Miami broke it open, and then they did, and we saw the result.
Yeah.
So the Giants are just bad. That offensive line needs to be fixed, not bandaged. You got to hope Saquon comes back. The ankle's good. And you have to protect Danny Dimes because you're the one who outbid yourself for him. Yeah. He's got to be the guy for a while, so you got to keep him up standing upright.
What do you think is the biggest gaping hole from last year? Because it's a pretty comparable team to that from last year's squad that won, 10, 11 games, whatever it was.
I feel like the offensive line got worse.
Somehow
it got worse. And it's just like, you had pretty much a full year of Saquon last year, and he performed. Now he's, hopefully he'll be back next week, and he's got to stay healthy. It's going to help, keep kind of balance it out, and hopefully, help Danny stay up and actually complete some passes. But yeah, that offensive line has gotten worse, to me, with the Giants.
Yeah. And of course, I imagine you probably saved the last one for particular reasons, did you not?
Wow. Like, what am I supposed to say? You tell me, what am I supposed to say here?
Donut.
Like, there's nothing to it. You haven't won a game. It's just, I don't know.
Well, they did beat the Jets. New England did beat the Jets by the skin of their teeth, albeit, but they did.
All right, and you got shellacked. You got shellacked by the Saints. Now, mind you, the Saints won, okay, but the Saints weren't that great either in the game. Like, they were all right. Like, Carr really didn't put up mind-boggling numbers. Wasn't like he threw for like 4 tutties and like 380 or something.
Yeah. He's a long way to go before he's Brock Purdy.
Why do you gotta disrespect Brock Purdy like that?
I'm not.
Here's the deal in New England. Something has to change. You can't keep just pulling out Mac halfway through the game, putting in, Zappy, and then, thinking next week it's going to be all right. At that point, the way things have gone now, I am pretty confident Mac Jones feels that no one thinks he's the guy in New England. No one believes in him. He's like, they just put me in. I suck. And then, boom, you're going to pull me anyways. I don't think he's got the confidence. I think he needs to change his scenery. I also think at some point Robert Kraft needs to look at this team and say, you know what? It's time to move on. It's time to just start from scratch. I really do. I think you're trying to keep the good old days around with duct tape and bubble gum, and it's not it. This isn't the Patriots of the last 20 years. It's not. It's time to look at it and say, you know what, we need a change. And unless Belichick is willing to say, you know what, let me bring in some younger offensive coordinators, some of what the new NFL is, and groom them to take over this team because I don't have it anymore. You're gonna end up worse than the Jets this year. Now, mind you, no much respect to the Jets, they played hard. I can't knock them, but that's what it is. Like New England is just horrible. They're horrible, and you got Judon hurt. You're not. You have a hodgepodge of talent that just doesn't fit the schemes, it seems, that you're trying to put in. It's a bad situation. It's time to decide that Mac Jones is not your guy. Figure out what you're going to do and move on. And then, like I said, Robert Kraft needs to decide if going forward, next 3 or 4 years, you're still going to go with Bill Belichick.
How much do you think Kyle Shanahan takes a sigh of relief that he doesn't have Mac Jones?
I'm going to be honest. If Mac Jones had gone to the Niners, I think Mac Jones would be better. Because I think Mac Jones would have went into a more stable situation. To Mac Jones's defense, when you have Matt Patricia as your offensive coordinator,
who's not even an offensive guy.
Exactly. The guy who no one in Detroit would ever help if he had a flat tire on a dark, deserted road. Let's be realistic here. So New England has not been the most stable environment for a new kid to come in, especially when you're replacing the greatest of all time. Like, let's be real. You were he walked in and he was the guy. And I don't care who you are, it's not going to happen. So to sit there and to go through that and then not have a solid foundation around you, you're not going to succeed. So I think New England, if you want to finish it off with Mac Jones, go ahead, because even if you brought in somebody else, you don't have the talent there to really do anything. Finish it off, give them some good game tape, and trade them. Someone will pick them up who they think can fix them, and who knows? Maybe they do.
Adopt Mac Jones. Give him a good home this winter.
For 25 cents a day, you can help save a Mac Jones. Your eyes of an angel. Yeah, there you go. That's what it feels like. Like I'm watching that poor dog commercial. I can't stand that commercial. That commercial I get so bad. It's so sad. I can't handle it.
It's horrible. It's the worst commercial I ever on TV.
Really, how much money did they give her for that song? Did she donate it for free? I want to know.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, that's the way it is in New England now. And if you watch some of the older players who are now, analysts and stuff, when they bring up New England, you can see the pain in their face. They're like, that's not what it was when I was there. Yeah. You can just tell they're like, yeah, this is what it is. But it's not my fault. They're like, that wasn't like that when I was there. I didn't leave it that bad. So New England, yeah, it just needs to tear down and rebuild.
Let's wrap up the show with one of our favorite topics this year, and I'll even throw up this comment from earlier.
Oh lordy.
Now, if you didn't know better, if you didn't look twice, let's say you just hopped into the NFL today, this week 5. Let's say you just hopped right in, and you didn't know left from right with how the season's gone. You would think the Denver Broncos were actually a competitive football team.
You would have, but but you also would have had to have been a person who never touched the internet. You would have to have been a person who literally came from another planet that had no internet, no nothing, and you came here, like you said, just flicked it on and said, "What is this thing called football? Wow, they seem pretty good." No, I'm sorry. Everyone knows that they're horrible, and the Jets were playing with some venom. Let's be real here. The Nathaniel Hackett situation was front and center, and they were like, you know what, Hall, run
Even
it.
without Rodgers.
Rodgers was sitting at home in California going, he felt like a proud papa.
Yeah.
He was like, I spread my venom to these youngins, and they handled my dirty work. They did it. And I think the telling tale of this whole thing was at the end when Russ was walking off the field to the sideline, and you saw Sean Payton try to talk to him, like asking him like what was going on, and he just like ignored him. He was like, whatever, I don't care. If Russ is there next year, it's going to be like the biggest Christmas miracle ever. Like, this is just a horrible situation. And I give the Broncos some credit. They put up some fight. Like, I still didn't believe they were going to beat the Jets. I just think the Jets were too strong on defense. And I think Zach was actually feeling good about himself, after the Chiefs game. I just felt they can't lose this game because I knew the Broncos couldn't get up for it. The Broncos were going to find a way to screw the pooch here, and here you go, folks.
The only other point I want to bring up on the Jets is the fact that we hinted this a little bit on the pregame show, and there's not a lot of confidence that the Jets can get kind of near a position that they should have been in with Rodgers, with dealing with Zach Wilson as their quarterback. So because of that, and because of this win over the Broncos, and now they're 2-3, 2-3 if I'm not mistaken.
2-3, one game from 500. There's hope.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying, but like Zach Wilson is not going to take you to the promised land. So if he keeps playing well, if they win games, they're never going to get rid of Zach Wilson. So is a win really the best thing?
Well, I don't think the plan. Well, if Aaron was healthy, right? I think the plan was Aaron was going to be there for a couple of years. Zach was going to learn what he needed to learn from him, and then they were just going to pass it over to him because they believed that maybe Zach would figure it out and say, hey, you know what? This is the way it's supposed to be done. Let me learn, and I'm good to go. At this point, Rodgers is going to play another year, so you're not going to have your draft status isn't going to be great. So at this point, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the guy.
So do you think there's just no point in trading for Kirk Cousins, Jameis Winston, any of these veterans that are kind of sitting around there waiting to get dealt?
If you want a chance at the playoffs, you're going after Cousins. You're not going after Jameis. Like, you're not. Like, and I respect Jameis and all that, but no, I don't think Jameis is that guy that's going to carry you into the playoffs. If they felt that way, they would have tried to have done something sooner. At this point, you can maybe wait 1 or 2 more weeks, maybe, to pull the trigger. After that, you just got to ride with what you got. I think the Jets are steadfast in saying, you know what, Zach's our guy. We'll ride with him till probably next year because I don't think Rodgers is getting back in time to do anything this season to save it.
Yeah, the saving grace is that after they get past, we talked about this in the preseason, their schedule was extremely front-loaded. The Chiefs, the Eagles, the Cowboys, like extremely front-loaded, even the Bills. And once they got past that, the difficulty of their schedule fell off a cliff. So really, if Zach Wilson could just kind of be a decent game manager and the defense can play like they did against Denver, like they did against Kansas City, they might have a shot.
You never say never. The NFL, sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Like the Giants did last year. To be realistic, the Giants played way above what they were. So it could happen. I wouldn't bet on it, but if they can play 500 ball, then I think that bodes well for them in the future, and I think bodes well for Zach. I think, The interesting part is going to be if they get to 500 and play 500 ball the rest of the year and maybe just miss out on a wild card, right? Let's say that happens. Aaron comes back next year, and here we go again. Rah rah. Aaron time is yeah, is ACL is ready to go. Blah blah blah. Does Zach sit there and say, "Hey, you know what? I think I'm good enough to run this team. I went through the hardship last year. I really improved. So now you got to deal with that." Does he want to wait another year or two before officially taking over the job? Or is he going to feel that, you know what? I don't think they're going to give it to me.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting in Jets land.
Real quick before we say goodnight, what are your thoughts on this Monday game between the Packers and the Raiders? Because Vegas is looking like they're just got nothing to play for this year, and the Packers have been very, very inconsistent. And on top of that, the Lions are increasing the distance between them and the Packers, and especially after that big win they had up in Lambeau. So, is there anything to even take out of this Monday nighter?
I think both teams feel that they still can compete for a playoff spot. They're not out of it yet, but both teams have some deficiencies. Green Bay, like it's the first year, man. Like I said, and I'm going to continue to say, it's the first year, and Jordan Love. We're learning what he is and how he's going to perform on the big stage. So he's going to have those games where he does some great things. He's going to have those games where you're like, really, man, this is what you have. This is what you have, Green Bay. This is what you drafted. So I think for them, if they literally play 500 ball, then it's a success for them. The Raiders, there's so much going on over there. If I'm Josh McDaniels, I'm asking to leave. I'm like, this isn't what I asked for. Even though he's quit on franchises before.
He quit on mine before he was even hired.
Yeah, his name on the door wasn't even dry probably at that point.
Yeah.
So, Jimmy G's, I think, back from the concussion, so he should be good. You have the Chandler Jones situation, which, they're still reeling from. So I just think there's a lot in this organization. I just think it's a bad juju all around. You just hope Green Bay kind of gets it together, and you hope that the Raiders just find themselves, figure out who they are, because they're just a mess. So both teams are on different paths for different reasons. So just watch some football. That's what you're going to take out of it.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we know who we are, and we're not searching for ourselves. Check out Sunday Scaries with Bucks McGee, our pregame show every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, plus going live after the games conclude for our recap and our Monday morning quarterback podcast, reformatting all the reactions from Sunday. Bucks McGee, Week 5, take us off air.
Well, everybody, thank you for joining us for Week 5. Some entertaining storylines, some stuff that's continuing to grow, stuff to watch. If your team won, congratulations. If they didn't, it's always next week. For those teams on buys, great job. Consider it a winning record. You enjoy those buys. We'll see you, for preparing you guys for the next week. Thank you very much for having us here. Nutmeg, it's been an honor as always, my friend.